One big seat has been filled for the 2021 NASCAR silly season, so let's get into who that was and where that's at. I hope you guys are having an awesome day, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of The High Side. My name is Jordan, and today's video will probably be a little shorter. I just wanted to cover some news that dropped this morning as of Monday morning on 9/21 around 9 o'clock a.m. Ross Chastain has been named the driver of the 42 car for Chip Ganassi Racing beginning in 2021. As you guys are all well aware, Kyle Larson lost his ride in the 42 car earlier this year due to comments he made during an iRacing event. And when they came back from their long break in the NASCAR Cup season, Chip Ganassi assigned Matt Kenseth the ride to the 42 car. And unfortunately, the 42 car hasn't had much success this year. Matt Kenseth did have a strong showing in his first race out. I believe he finished in the top 10 at Darlington. He's also finished second at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Brickyard 400. But other than that, the 42 car has not had a strong running this year, unfortunately. And they needed a replacement to be more long-term, someone that could be potentially more competitive. And I'll give Matt a benefit of the doubt here a little bit. He has not driven in this Kyle package since he retired back in 2018 after racing for Joe Gibbs Racing. So jumping into that car with no practice, no qualifying, just drop the green flag and go. It's definitely been, I think, a struggle for Matt Kenseth. I think it would be a struggle for a lot of people, especially when you've been out of a car completely for almost 2 years. And so with that, obviously Kyle Larson is not going to come back to the 42 car, so they had to find a replacement going forward into the future, and that has been given to Ross Chastain. As some of you might know, Ross Chastain has been somewhat signed, if you want to call it that, with Chip Ganassi over the last few years. Ross Chastain's first races with Chip Ganassi Racing were back in 2018 when he drove a few Xfinity races for the 42 car in the Xfinity Series. At the time, he had a really strong running at Darlington. Unfortunately, didn't pull off the win. He had a little run-in with Kevin Harvick, as some of you might remember as well, but he did end up winning at Las Vegas in the 42 car, and that's where the smashing of the watermelon began for his wins going forward. That was his first win among the top 3 series, and as many of you might know, he was slated to drive that 42 car the following year full-time for Chip Ganassi Racing with DC Solar as the primary sponsor. But unfortunately, they got into some trouble as far as DC Solar, and so they lost that sponsorship and ultimately could not run the 42 car in the Xfinity Series going forward. And they haven't driven that car in the Xfinity Series since, which kind of surprised, to be honest with you. Surprised they haven't tried to make a return to Xfinity Series, but that's another conversation for another day. But going back to Ross Chastain, because the ride fell through in 2018, he ended up signing a full-time Truck Series deal with Nice Motorsports. And actually that started later in the year after he won one truck race and realizing that they could potentially compete for a championship. He was basically, originally I believe he was signed to do Xfinity Series points, but then they found success in the Truck Series, so he went full-time in the Truck Series in last year in 2019, winning multiple races. And he even made it to the Final Four at Homestead last year in the Truck Series. Unfortunately, he didn't win the championship. But after that, he signed with Colleague Racing this year, driving the number 10. Obviously, the previous year, he also won Daytona with Colleague Racing in the Xfinity Series. So he's had success with Colleague Racing. He's probably been the most consistent driver in the Xfinity Series all year as far as the number of top 10s. Unfortunately, he hasn't captured that win with Colleague Racing in 2020, but he's been very close, including this previous weekend where he finished second at Bristol. Came very, very close, and you could definitely tell he really wanted it in that post-race interview. But with all that said, that's where he's been. That's what he's been up to. He's also been driving select Cup Series races as well. When he gets a chance, any kind of ride he can drive. He's done a couple races with Chip Ganassi Racing as well, with an alliance with Spire Motorsports in the 77, including in the Daytona 500 and the Coke 600 this year. And he finished around 25th, I believe, in both of those races. But as I mentioned earlier, he's had this contract with Chip Ganassi Racing the past few years to kind of keep him in their stable. And so with them needing to fill the 42 car, Chip Ganassi has tapped Ross Chastain to drive the 42 car full time in 2021. And so that's one big ride that now is filled for this crazy NASCAR silly season. Ross Chastain had these words to say as far as his opportunity to drive full-time in the 42 car for Chip Ganassi Racing. He says, "I can't thank Chip enough for this opportunity, the faith he has had. The faith he and the organization has shown since back in 2018 was a real turning point in my career, and I'm extremely happy for the chance to join the team again." He goes on to say, "Racing the Cup Series with a serious contender has always been a goal, and I'm looking forward to joining what is a very strong team." And then additionally, he adds, "I know I have my work cut out for me, but I'm ready to get to work and help bring more success to the organization." Now, as far as what Ross Chastain could do in that car for the 42 in 2021, he hasn't had this competitive of a ride in the Cup Series. So I think that's going to really help show his skill, his talent, what he has in the Cup Series. Obviously, we've seen him have success in the Truck Series and Xfinity Series. He's proven when he has winning equipment, he can get the job done. Now, obviously, racing in the Cup Series, racing for wins and a spot in the playoffs is definitely a whole new ball game, a different challenge than the lower series. Many of the other drivers will definitely say that. So do I think he'll win some races, battle for a championship, make the playoffs? I definitely think he has the potential to battle for some wins. He has the talent. He'll have the power behind him, the vehicles. They could be a little stronger. They're not nearly the level as someone like Hendrick Motorsports, but obviously we've seen Kurt Busch been able to rack off a win or two in that equipment, as well as make the playoffs both years that he's driven for Chip Ganassi. I definitely think Ross has the ability to make the playoffs, whether that's through points or grabbing a win. Do I think he'll compete for a championship per se? You might and see him in the Final Four. I don't think he's at that level yet. I think he needs experience racing with the top dogs in the Cup Series before he really gets competitive on a consistent basis, battling for a championship in the Cup Series. But this is great news for Ross Chastain. He's one of those underdog stories who has not brought a lot of sponsorship with him, but has been able, with every ride he's gotten into, improve that program and show that he can be a competitive and winning driver. And so I believe that's what's got him even to this point. So it's cool to see him. And Matt DiBenedetto is one of those drivers you can think of that's kind of been on that similar path. So we don't see that very often in the NASCAR series anymore. A lot of times it comes with sponsorship to get a ride. So it's been really cool to see Ross Chastain's rise to now full-time in the Cup Series in a competitive ride. So it'll be really interesting to see what he does. And so I would love to hear you guys' thoughts and comments about what you guys think he'll do in 2021 as far as driving for the 42 car. Again, leave your comments down below if you guys have any thoughts. As far as other NASCAR silly season news, we still have the big news to drop for Bubba Wallace. The rumors out there have been obviously that he'll drive for Denny Hamlin potentially in a new team. Denny Hamlin may potentially be looking to buy the charter from Germain Racing, and then Bubba Wallace will potentially drive for them. Obviously, we know Bubba has already announced that he won't drive for the 43. We still have Eric Jones. Where's he going to land? Is Daniel Suarez going to return in the Cup Series next year? Corey LaJoie, where does potentially Ty Dillon go with Germain Racing looking to sell his charter? Will he stay with the new team, the new ownership? So there's still a lot of big shoes to fill, a lot of big seats. What about the 48 car? Will that run in 2021? Who will drive it potentially? So there's still a lot of big news and things to drop as far as this NASCAR silly season. But finally, we got some news as far as one seat that's going to be filled. And make sure you guys stay tuned for any future news to the episode. Make sure you subscribe. Hit that like button if you guys enjoyed this video. And I'll see you guys in another episode of The High Side.